now come back to odd socks. So I thought I would give you a little bit of an update with our chicks. Now the last time you probably saw them, they were probably a week old, maybe two. But as you can see, they have massively grown and it is time for them to move on. Now this little area was designed as a bigger brooder because the dog cage didn't last because there's 10 of them. So in the shed we built a little area and gave them a little bit more room. They've been off heat for a while now, so now it's time for them to move on to their final coop. We did end up having one rooster out of all the chicks. Thankfully, the guy we bought them off did take him back and exchange it for another. While there, we decided to get one more speckledy, so that is now 11 chickens. As you can see from the substrate, it is very messy, and I literally only just turned this over and fresh new bedding 2 days ago. So now it's time for them to definitely go into their final coop and space. When they get to this size, it gets very, very hard to keep an area clean in such a small area. Now this has been perfect for us while they've been so small, but now they're just far too big for this space. So let's go and have a look at the coop and see what I've done on the coop. So this is the chicken coop that I'll be using, at least for the short term anyway. I'm hoping to get a year or two out of that. Now you've probably seen in previous videos the bits and pieces that I've been going and doing with this particular run and the coop itself. It's not the prettiest of things, but it should be, fingers crossed, as fox-proof as what I can make it at the moment. Now all the way around the outside of the coop, it's either concrete slabs and there's chicken wire or heavy crate wire, which is like the old crates, you know, the dog crates that you can use when they're puppies. Taking those apart and place them just below the ground so the fox actually can't dig up and under the actual run itself. It's all covered in quite a strong chicken wire. It's pallets or wood on the bottom. So I'm fingers crossed, hopefully I've got it right with the fox proofing. But the one thing I haven't shown you really much of is my new coop. Now when I say new, it's not new, it's a recycled coop. Some parts were from the old shed, some parts were from scrap pieces of wood, and I haven't actually had to spend that much money. But don't get me wrong, I have had to spend some. Some of the wood was just too rotten to use, and I had to replace it with some bought wood. But actually I think it doesn't look too bad, so let's go and have a quick look. Now first off, I've got to fix this bolt and then put another bolt a little bit further down. This should stop any foxes. And then this is the whole area. Now I don't think it looks too bad. Now I'll show you the different designs that we've done. Now they've actually got plenty of space in here. And as you can see, they can go all underneath the coop as well, towards the back, and obviously everywhere else. Now it might look like it's a bit dark in here, and it is a little bit. We can roll this back a little bit further, but I'm trying to make it as weatherproof as possible. And if we ever get any more flock downs, which we will, the birds will still be able to come out here and actually have some space and won't be locked in the coop for months at a time. I was going to use the clear plastic, but I find that sometimes the clear plastic can be exceptionally hot. But what I might do is bring this side up and over so they've got a little bit more light. Now the whole run's not covered, and this end they get full sun by about 12 o'clock in the afternoon, which I'm pretty sure they'll be sunbathing in. But let me show you what I've done with the coop so far. So this is what it looks like with the doors closed. Not the prettiest of things, but it should be functional. Now, after having chickens over the years, in my head I wanted to make sure that it was as easy as possible to keep clean. So on this we have the whole front that opens up, so we can actually access the whole of the front. Now, it's not quite the same as my shed coop, which I liked because I could actually stand up in here. Knowing I wasn't going to do that route this time round, simply because the sheds are unbelievably expensive, I decided to build it on stilts, just so it keeps it off the ground. It might help with some rats and things like that, but to be honest, I don't think a couple of foot off the ground is going to make much difference. I don't know whether you've ever seen a rat climb a vertical surface. But they've got plenty of room in here. This is as big as what I was happy to build. It has got a roof. I haven't used a felt roof because that can attract red mite quite a lot. Having 2 nest boxes, which I then will separate into 4 nest boxes, that should be enough for all my chickens. So this is the first nest box. Again, just needs a little bit of finishing off, but they will not be using this for a little while. Easy access. This has been felted, but in the future I will replace it. And this is the back entrance to the actual coop. Now, from this angle I can clean the floor where all the droppings will go from below the roost bars, and it should make it nice and easy. I've used some scrap pieces of lino just to make it a little bit easier to actually clean. But the problem is with lino, it can give an area for red mites to actually breed. So the whole coop has been sprayed down with a red mite solution and disinfected and cleaned off, all ready for the bedding to go on. Now, I struggled a little bit with the roosting bars. Now, I want to go for something for about 5 centimetres. This is about 3.8. Now, my girls are very young at the moment, and they probably will use this roost bar, but it may be still a little bit too wide. Now, some would say to swap it over to the deeper side, but I'm going to try it this way first and see if the girls actually take to roosting. Now, the edges have been smoothed out, so there's nothing going to be digging into the feet. I've then got a old stick that I've got that's been disinfected and cleaned, and that's just a jumping bar to get onto the higher bars. Now, the good thing about this setup is because I can clean underneath these roost bars directly, I can just get a broom or something to sweep into a bag and then take it away for the compost heap. And the great thing is I've got a door which I can just lift on to the bottom, and then it just secures in place, so nothing is getting into this back area where the chickens are. And that's nice and secure. Now, I have got some little bits and pieces I need to do, but I'm almost ready to go. And in fact, the chickens are coming down. You've seen how big they've got, and they really do need to come into a slightly bigger area. Now, my plan is to have them in here for at least 3 to 5 days. Now, I was going to do it last week, but the heat of last week, I think they would have roasted being stuck in here. So I'm doing it this week. They're definitely ready to move on, and having the extra bit of space and the jumping room, they'll probably benefit from. Now, the eagle-eyed among you, yes, I have got an automatic chicken door. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I think it's an absolute godsend at certain times. So having that little bit of freedom where I don't have to get up so early or come down so late in the summer months will be really beneficial. But every day the chickens will be checked on anyway, be it the morning or the evening. So I've just fitted this, and I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a ball ache, only because of the runs. Getting those straight and leaving enough of a gap for it to flow freely through. So far it's been relatively easy to actually program, but I've only done the basics, and now I need to turn it onto manual so it doesn't open up for a few days unless I open it up myself. So I'm hoping that this chicken guard, I think it's the Chicken Guard Pro with the door and the actual machine itself as a whole piece of kit. Now, I was recommended one of these. Yes, it's not that cheap either, but I'm really hoping it will give us, one, a bit of peace of mind, and two, a little bit of a lie-in on days where I can actually have a little lie-in. It seems to be okay. I'm relatively happy so far, but we'll see how it performs over the coming months. Now, this area should be fox-proof anyway, so if they do not maybe go in for whatever reason and the door shuts, they should be still safe in here overnight. Now, for 2-3 weeks, I will definitely make sure that I come down here just before they're supposed to be closing, just to make sure that the chickens do get a hang of it, because it's a new thing for them. And if I can get them used to this coop being their home and somewhere safe, they should, in theory, happily go into this coop just as the sun starts setting. But we'll see that and how it goes over the coming months. But I think it doesn't look too bad. It could be a lot better, most definitely, but I'm relatively happy with it. Now, it cost us for the roofing because we didn't go with the felt, because that can cause a lot of red mite, and the felt that we've got on the nest boxes on both sides, I will replace it eventually. But for recycled materials, it actually hasn't been that bad. In fact, for all the bits and pieces, I think I got it for under £100. Now, this is a relatively large coop. This is, I think, 5.5 foot by 6.5 foot, which is the smallest I was willing to go. So far, I'm actually quite happy with it. Now, there's probably a few tweaks I'm going to do over the future, but for now, it's somewhere dry and safe for our chickens. Now, for ventilation, as you can see, there's a nice big gap there, and directly on the other side is another one. So that will be kept open all year. It's not above the chickens' heads for where they're going to be roosting, but obviously there's gaps in the roof, so there'll still be a little bit of an airflow through there. Now, when you're setting up your roost bars, you want to make sure that you've got enough space for an adult chicken to be able to fly up and not bang its head. The last thing you want is any damage to their heads or combs. And also that you've got ways for them to get up. Now, chickens can jump and get up to quite high perches. To have lower ways down will make it easier on their feet, vastly reducing any damage to their feet, which could turn into bumblefoot or any other bits of infections that chickens can get on their feet. So I'm trying to be extra cautious, because I don't know if you've seen the prices of all the different medications for chickens. They really have skyrocketed. So if you can prevent some of these injuries and some of these diseases in the first place, the better they will be. And that is why I have treated all the wood and crevices in this coop already with a red mite killer. It's getting to that time of the year where it's starting to get very hot, and they will breed so quickly. So if you haven't done your deep clean yet and you've already got chickens, maybe you should start thinking about giving your coops a really thorough clean and getting rid of any of those red mites by whatever treatment you think is suitable. Now, as for the coop flooring, I am going down the route of chopped rapeseed. Now, I wasn't 100% convinced, and I normally use Bed Max, which is used for horses, but I used it for the chicks for a little while. Ugh. And I found that the flakes are quite big, and it didn't actually stop a lot of the mess. Well, when I say stop a lot of the mess, it stayed on the surface quite a lot, and the chickens were walking all over it and it was getting stuck to their feet, even though I spot cleaned every single day. Now I have a lot of chickens coming here. I have 10, no, sorry, I have 11 because I managed to pick up another one. Chicken math. But this stuff, I found that the actual poop dropped below the surface somewhat, so when they were walking over it, it didn't stick to their feet. Now it's not too dusty, not quite as dust free as the Bed Max for horses that I was using before. The reason we got that, because we can get it quite cheap. But over the last 2 weeks I've been using it in the other coop, it's done really well. I quite like the smell of it, and there's certainly a lot less smell in that chicken brooder at the moment where the chickens are. Now this stuff's got a lovely citrusy, eucalyptusy smell. Got a couple of little jobs to do. My ramp needs some treads on it so it's a little bit easier for the chickens to get up and down. But I'm going to do that probably tomorrow because they're not going to be coming out of this coop for a couple of days. I really do want them to feel that this is their safe place. For those few days, their food and water will be coming into here. So I'm going to put a piece of wood down on some bricks so it's off the floor and less likely chance of, one, getting knocked over, and two, getting covered in the shavings. So, what do you guys think? I think it's not bad for a DIY rough build. There was no plans, no sketches, because all the wood was just random pieces of wood, and I just had to build it on my own as I went along. It wasn't the easiest of builds to do, even though it looks very simple, but trying to find the right pieces of wood out the scrap pieces that I already had got quite tedious in the end. But I think the chickens will be happy in this area, and over the summer months they can come out onto the allotment in certain areas. I'll actually have some netting out so they can have a little bit more of a wander. But since this, I think the run is 6 metres by 6 metres, which is quite a large run area, and that's more than enough space. Whereas the coop is just bordering on being too small. But because I'm hoping my chickens are going to be out for most of the year, it's dry, it's protected from a lot of the wind and a lot of the elements. They're not going to want to be stuck in here for too long anyway. But this is my coop, and this is where the chickens are going to come over. So I suppose the next step is to go and pick up those chickens. It's really nerve-wracking bringing your chicks out into the outdoors. But there's a little bit of nervous side on me. My little babies being out here all alone on our allotment. But they can't stay in their brooder any longer. It's not fair on them. It is far too small for them now, and they need to be all able to be able to stretch their wings. And I think by the end of this week, they should be out into their run area, exploring everything as they go. The games will begin when I'm trying to get them into the coop. That is the problem. Takes a little bit of training, but I think we'll get there in the end. So let's go and get these chickens and get them into the coop. So I've come back the next morning. I put them in. I didn't want to film it because I think the needs of the chickens must come first, and it can be quite stressful moving from one place to another and then going into a completely new environment. But I thought we would check up on them this morning, make sure they've still got their water upright and make sure they've still got food. So let's take a look inside. Morning, girls. Come on. Now, I have been handling them most days, but they're still very skittish at this age. As they get a little bit older, I find they get a little bit more trusting. But regular interaction with your chickens are really quite important. Come on in, guys. Come on in. And of course, having some little treats in your hand. So whenever you put your hand flat in the coop, hopefully they should start coming over. Now I always like to do a little head count just in case. Now this little guy who's coming over now, he's the one, well, she's the one with wryneck, but it is so much better compared to what it was. It was completely flopped over and bent over. And with some doses of vitamin E in the water, some sunflower seeds, making sure that they've got access to grit, and giving them extra selenium, it really has made a marked difference. Now, it might seem a bit cruel keeping them in here for a few days, but it's just to make sure that they are focused that this is their safe place. And I'm really hoping it's going to make it a little bit easier when I start letting them out for when they start going to bed. The last lot of chickens I had, a lot of the times I had to herd them in, and it was a giant pain in the backside, because as soon as you'd get the 2 or 3 in, one of them would decide to go out and then the rest would come out. But they all seem quite happy. Water's being kept clean because I've raised it up off the ground, and that's another important thing. If you've got water in your brooders or your coops, for whatever reason, or on the ground, you need it raised slightly, just so it doesn't get so messy and dirty. Hello. Now, they're a lot more skittish than they would have been if I was interacting with them in the old brooder. But this is all completely new for them. And since chickens have lots and lots of predators, they really are more nervous at times, especially when you've introduced them into a brand new situation. So it might take them a few days just to get back to where they were before. Now, I've still got a couple of little jobs I've got to do before they come out into this run. I do want to build like a jungly gym kind of thing for them, with some battens or some sticks or something for them to climb up on, and something for them to do. Otherwise it can get quite boring for a chicken. And a bored chicken is when they can cause more chaos. There can be more pecking, more frustration. So I want to enrich as much as what I possibly can. Hello, buddy. Now, I need some help from you guys. I need some help with naming these chickens. Now, I have 3 white Sussex, 3 white Skylines, which lays the blue eggs. I have 3 Speckledies, 1 with a slightly brown chest, and I have 2 Moran Stars. Now, the rest of these are female. I think I would have noticed any male traits coming through by now. But I would really love for you to leave in the comments some names. Now, I've got no problem with funny names, really unusual names, but I can't be having any offensive names. So please just keep that to yourselves. I am happy to have some ideas of some really imaginative names, if that's what you think. It's like the one with the wryneck. We actually called him Gregory, as in Gregory Peck, as in Gregory Peck neck. So that's the kind of thing that we're actually going for. So the one with the wryneck is called Gregory. And yes, I'm aware it's a male now, but it's a little bit of fun. So leave that in the comments below of some fun names to give to these chickens, and I'll choose the best ones out of the bunch. But they all seem quite happy on their first night. Just another couple of nights in the coop, and fingers crossed that's where they want to go to be safe. So that's what stage my chickens are up to at the moment, about 8 weeks old, and they're looking really good, and I'm really pleased. I'm pleased with the coop. It's not the prettiest of things, I'm more than aware, but it is definitely sturdy, it's definitely dry, and it should keep them going for a couple of years minimum at least. As time goes on, I might make some changes to the actual coop itself, and I may even make some changes to the actual size of the run. And remember, they'll be coming out of this run areas at certain times of the year as well, and I'll have it netted, either a little bit of electric fencing or some bird netting around the edges a bit further out for when I'm actually down here, so they can get a little bit further. But they have got plenty of room. It's a nice big space. And I think hopefully I'll have some really happy hens. So don't forget guys, leave those comments below and I shall see you in the next update of the chickens.